Hello. I continue reading from The Age of AI and Our Human Future by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher. Let me do my seashells. I love the beach. Don't you? Check out my new Blue Yeti Nano mic. These revolutionary ideas penetrated further toward the essence of things than Kant or his followers had thought possible. We are at the beginning of the inquiry into what additional levels of perception or comprehension AI may permit. Its application may allow scientists to fill in gaps in the human observer's ability to measure and perceive phenomena, or in the human or traditional computer's ability to process complementary data sets and identify patterns in them. The 20th century philosophical world, jarred by the disjunctions at the frontiers of science and by the First World War, began to chart new paths that diverged from traditional Enlightenment reason and instead embraced the ambiguity and relativity of perception. The Austrian philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, who eschewed the academy for life as a gardener and then a village schoolteacher, set aside the notion of a single essence of things identifiable by reason, the goal that philosophers since Plato had sought. Instead, Wittgenstein counseled that knowledge was to be found in generalizations about similarities across phenomena, which he termed family resemblances. And the result of this examination is we see a complicated network of similarities, overlapping and crisscrossing, sometimes overall similarities, sometimes similarities of detail. The quest to define and catalog all things, each with its own sharply delineated boundaries, was mistaken, he held. Instead, one should seek to define this and similar things and achieve familiarity with the resulting concepts, even if they had blurred or indistinct edges. Later in the late 20th century and the early 21st, this thinking informed theories of AI and machine learning. Such theories posited that AI's potential lay partly in its ability to scan large data sets to learn types and patterns. Example, groupings of words often found together, or features most often present in an image when that image was of a cat, and then to make sense of reality by identifying networks of similarities and likenesses with what the AI already knew. Even if AI would never know something in the way a human mind could, an accumulation of matches with the patterns of reality could approximate and sometimes exceed the performance of human perception and reason. The Enlightenment world, with its optimism regarding human reason despite its consciousness of the pitfalls of flawed human logic, has long been our world. Scientific revolutions, especially in the 20th century, have evolved technology and philosophy, but the central Enlightenment premise of a knowable world being unearthed step by step by human minds has persisted until now. Throughout 3 centuries of discovery and exploration, humans have interpreted the world as Kant predicted they would, according to the structure of their own minds. But as humans began to approach the limits of their cognitive capacity, they became willing to enlist machines, computers, to augment their thinking, in order to transcend those limitations. Computers added a separate digital realm to the physical realm in which humans had always lived. As we are growing increasingly dependent on digital augmentation, we are entering a new epoch in which the reasoning human mind is yielding its pride of place as the sole discoverer, knower, and cataloger of the world's phenomena. While the technological achievements of the age of reason have been significant, until recently they had remained sporadic enough to be reconciled with tradition. Innovations have been characterized as extensions of previous practices. Films were moving photographs, telephones were conversations across space, and automobiles were rapidly moving carriages in which horses were replaced by engines measured by their horsepower. Likewise, in military life, tanks were sophisticated cavalry, airplanes were advanced artillery, battleships were mobile forts, and aircraft carriers were more mobile airstrips. Even nuclear weapons maintained the implication of their moniker, weapons, when nuclear powers organized their forces as artillery, emphasizing their prior experience and understanding of war. But we have reached a tipping point. We can no longer conceive of some of our innovations as extensions of that which we already know. By compressing the time frame in which technology alters the experience of life, the revolution of digitization and the advancement of AI have produced phenomena that are truly new, not simply more powerful or efficient versions of things past. As computers have become faster and smaller, they have become embeddable in phones, watches, utilities, appliances, security systems, vehicles, weapons, and even human bodies. Communication across and between such digital systems is now essentially instantaneous. Tasks that were manual a generation ago, reading, research, shopping, discourse, record keeping, surveillance, and military planning and conduct, are now digital, data-driven, and unfolding in the same realm, cyberspace. All levels of human organization have been affected by this digitization. Through their computers and phones, individuals possess, or at least can access, more information than ever before. Corporations, having become collectors and aggregators of users' data, now wield more power and influence than many sovereign states. Governments, wary of ceding cyberspace to rivals, have entered, explored, and begun to exploit the realm, observing few rules and exercising even fewer restraints. They are quick to designate cyberspace as a domain in which they must innovate in order to prevail over their rivals. Few have thoroughly understood what exactly has occurred through this digital revolution. Speed is partly to blame, as is inundation. For all its many wondrous achievements, digitization has rendered human thought both less contextual and less conceptual. Digital natives do not feel the need, at least not urgently, to develop concepts that for most of history have compensated for the limitations of collective memory. They can and do ask search engines whatever they want to know, whether trivial, conceptual, or somewhere in between. Search engines in turn use AI to respond to their queries. In the process, humans delegate aspects of their thinking to technology. But information is not self-explanatory. It is context dependent. To be useful, or at least meaningful, it must be understood through the lenses of culture and history. When information is contextualized, it becomes knowledge. When knowledge compels convictions, it becomes wisdom. Yet the internet inundates users with the opinions of thousands, even millions of other users, depriving them of the solitude required for sustained reflection that historically has led to the development of convictions. As solitude diminishes, so too does fortitude, not only to develop convictions but also to be faithful to them, particularly when they require the traversing of novel and thus often lonely roads. Only convictions, in combination with wisdom, enable people to access and explore new horizons. The digital world has little patience for wisdom. Its values are shaped by approbation, not introspection. It inherently challenges the Enlightenment proposition that reason is the most important element of consciousness. Nullifying restrictions that historically have been imposed on human conduct by distance, time, and language, the digital world prefers that connection in and of itself is meaningful. As online information has exploded, we have turned to software programs to help us sort it, refine it, make assessments based on patterns, and to guide us in answering our questions. The introduction of AI, which completes the sentence we are texting, identifies the book or store we are seeking, and intuits articles and entertainment we might enjoy based on prior behavior, has often seemed more mundane than revolutionary. But as it is being applied to more elements of our lives, it is altering the role that our minds have traditionally played in shaping, ordering, and assessing our choices and actions. Chapter 3. From Turing to today and beyond. In 1943, when researchers created the first modern computer, electronic, digital, and programmable, their achievement gave new urgency to intriguing questions. Can machines think? Are they intelligent? Could they become intelligent? Such questions seem particularly perplexing given long-standing dilemmas about the nature of intelligence. In 1950, mathematician and code breaker Alan Turing offered a solution. In a paper unassumingly titled Computing Machinery and Intelligence, Turing suggested setting aside the problem of machine intelligence entirely. What mattered, Turing posited, was not the mechanism, but the manifestation of intelligence. Because the inner lives of other beings remain unknowable, he explained, our sole means of measuring intelligence should be external behavior. With this insight, Turing sidestepped centuries of philosophical debate on the nature of intelligence. The imitation game he introduced proposed that if a machine operated so proficiently that observers could not distinguish its behavior from a human's, the machine should be labeled intelligent. The Turing test was born. Many have interpreted the Turing test literally, imagining robots that pass for people, if that should ever happen, as meeting its criteria. When pragmatically applied, however, the test has proved useful in assessing intelligent machines' performance in defined, circumscribed activities such as games. Rather than requiring total indistinguishability from humans, the test applies to machines whose performance is human-like. In so doing, it focuses on performance, not process. Generators like GPT-3 are AI because they produce text similar to text people produce, not because of the specifics of their models. In GPT-3's case, the fact that it was trained using various amounts of online information. In 1956, computer scientist John McCarthy further defined artificial intelligence as machines that can perform tasks that are characteristic of human intelligence. Turing's and McCarthy's assessments of AI have become benchmarks ever since, shifting our focus in defining intelligence to performance, intelligence seeming behavior rather than the term's deeper philosophical, cognitive, or neuroscientific dimensions. While for the past half-century machines have largely failed to demonstrate such intelligence, that impasse appears to be at its end. Having operated for decades on the basis of precisely defined code, computers produce analyses that were similarly limited in their rigidity and static nature. Traditional programs could organize volumes of data and execute complex computations, but could not identify images of simple objects or adapt to imprecise inputs. The imprecise and conceptual nature of human thought proved to be a stubborn impediment in the development of AI. In the past decade, however, computing innovations have created AIs that have begun to equal or exceed human achievement in such fields. AIs are imprecise, dynamic, emergent, and capable of learning. AIs learn by consuming data, then drawing observations and conclusions based on the data. While previous systems required exact inputs and outputs, AIs with imprecise function require neither. These AIs translate text not by swapping individual words, but by identifying and employing idiomatic phrases and patterns. Likewise, such AI is considered dynamic because it involves in response to changing circumstances, and emergent because it can identify solutions that are novel to humans. In machinery, these four qualities are revolutionary. Consider, for example, the breakthrough of AlphaZero in the world of chess. Classical chess programs relied on human expertise developed by human play being coded into their programming. But AlphaZero developed its skills by playing millions of games itself, from which it discovered patterns for itself. The building blocks of these learning techniques are algorithms, sets of steps for translating inputs, such as the rules of a game or measures of quality of moves within those rules, into repeatable outputs, such as winning the game. But machine learning algorithms are a departure from the precision and predictability of classical algorithms, including those in calculations like long division. Unlike classical algorithms, which consist of steps for producing precise results, machine learning algorithms consist of steps for improving upon imprecise results. These techniques are making remarkable progress. Aviation is another example. Soon, AI will pilot or co-pilot a variety of vehicles in the air. In the DARPA program, Alpha Dogfight, AI fighter pilots have outperformed humans in simulated combat by executing maneuvers beyond the capabilities of human pilots. Whether piloting jets to fight wars or drones to deliver groceries, AI is poised to have significant impact on the future of both military and civilian aviation. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you in the next video. May you find lasting happiness. Bye for now.